What if today is the day the Lakers stop asking anyone's permission to be the Lakers? The day we choose identity over noise and flip the chessboard before the league even realizes the clock has started. Because if you've been paying attention to the calls flying between El Segundo and the East Coast, you can feel it. This front office is testing every bolt on the IA roster to decide what wins now and what survives the next summer, when LeBron's timeline could point elsewhere and the organization has to be bulletproof around its pillars without pausing to mourn the past. So let me walk you through the real picture, not the headline bait. Just you and me looking at the same whiteboard. We've got a superstar engine already humming. We've got Anthony Davis anchoring both sides when the game slows. We've got role pieces that play up a band of intensity under playoff lights. And we've got one asset whose value curve is peaking exactly when the financial rules squeeze the middle class. An asset who can return depth, picks, and fit in one move. But I'm not handing you the name yet because first I need you to see the map we're traveling. Start with the macro, not the rumor. After LeBron opted in for 2025-26, every executive with a pulse framed this season as a window and a crossroads. A year to chase wins while staging the roster for a possible exit of the greatest tone-setter of this era. And that means two parallel mandates. Number one, raise the nightly floor so the team stops living and dying by 2 or 3 late clock possessions. And number two, keep the cap sheet flexible enough to pivot instantly if next July brings the change many around the league expect. And you can't do either if you let friendly contracts walk to free agency for nothing, or if you jam the books with extensions that feel good in October and lock you in by April. That's the part fans hate, because it's cold. And it's also the part that wins when the calendar turns cruel. And if you want the on-court translation, it's simple. We need more switch strength on the wings, more cutting that turns paint touches into dunks without dribbles, more reliable pull-up gravity in the second unit, and more two-way competence in minutes 3 through 9 so your stars can survive pockets of the game without dragging oxygen tanks. Now swing the camera to New York, because whether you love them or love to hate them, they check every box of a real buyer. Stable core built around Brunson's pace control and on-ball shot-making. 2 elite wings who defend first and talk later. A bruising big who bends coverages with stretch and post-gravity. And a bench that got deeper where it used to wobble. So what's missing at the very top of the bracket when every scout pencils in the same counters against them? It's the second handler who doesn't freeze possessions, who runs side actions while Brunson draws top coverage, who pulls up from the slot without needing a warm-up dribble, and who toggles between connector and closer when the fourth quarter gets muddy. That, my friends, is why these two franchises keep orbiting each other whenever the trade machine thread breaks out of social media and into real phones. Because the Knicks can overpay in exactly the currency that helps Los Angeles, playable wings on tidy deals and draft control, without cutting into the heart of who they are. And the Lakers can take that bundle and become sturdier, longer, and frankly harder to scheme against if the ball isn't living in a single superstar's hands every trip. Before we go to names, let's talk rules. Not because I want to bore you, but because the second apron shackles are real. The further over the line you are, the fewer tools you can use, which turns cute consolidation trades into dead ends and elevates the premium on near-market contracts that can move in clean one-for-one shapes, and surprise, that's exactly the salary tier New York has in bulk, and the tier LA needs to add if it's going to rebalance from star-centric bursts to sustained control of the middle minutes. Now watch how the basketball and the money line up. If the Lakers convert one prized guard into 2 big wings and a pick, Darvin Ham, no matter who's holding the clipboard next spring, gets to switch more actions without bleeding size, gets to avoid the death by closeout that burned us in some series, and gets to run more 2-man actions that start with a catch on the move rather than a static drag, which keeps Davis fresher and the half-court less predictable. If the Knicks add a guard who thrives off advantage, reads the floor without chewing the clock, and can live next to Brunson without stepping on his tempo, they break the wall Brunson and live with the result approach that the best defenses spammed late last season, and they do it without tearing up the identity Mike Brown spent the summer tightening. Defend your yard. Cut with violence. Move the rock and punish mismatches without hunting them like a reality show. Now here's where your heart and your head collide. Because the name you've been waiting for is the same one that carried us through weird weeks, that hit shots we still replay on our phones, that wore the jersey like it meant something beyond a paycheck. Austin Reaves, the most tradable good player we've had in ages, a bargain contract that doubles as a springboard to a bigger number in a year. A gamer who fills gaps and who, precisely because he fills gaps, has admirers in every serious front office. And yes, the noise you heard is not ghost smoke. The Lakers have been open to centering a Knicks framework around Reaves if, and only if, New York pays the premium reserved for players who close playoff games. Because you don't move heart and soul pieces to save face. You move them to change your shape, lift your baseline, and buy the optionality that a potentially LeBron-less summer demands. I know what you're thinking. Why not wait until July and dare the market? And the blunt answer is that waiting trades control for romance. Because once you're in bidding season, you're protecting bird rights at a number you don't choose. And you're hoping nothing on the floor or in the training room dents leverage. Whereas acting now means you capture the current production-to-salary arbitrage at maximum force, and you do it with a partner whose need matches your ask, not out of panic, but out of purpose. So what does it look like after the ink dries if the two sides shake hands? In New York, Reaves slides into the second action, cuts when Brunson draws two, lives in that floater pocket where help bigs get punished for stepping up, and gives them one more closer who doesn't need the ball thrown to him with a bow. In Los Angeles, the return lets us roll groups that defend big across positions, that fly in transition without sacrificing structure, that give Davis a couple more true backline allies, and that ask our creators to attack moving defenses rather than static walls. And it returns pick equity that matters when you're trying to thread the needle between win tonight and shop smart in June. If you want an on-court snapshot, imagine a fourth quarter where we're not begging a single guard to dribble us to daylight, but instead toggling matchups until the soft spot tears, wing slips from the corner into a dunker pocket, hammer action that turns a scram switch into a layup, empty corner pick and roll that forces a tag from a smaller defender because our weak side stay-home threats are real. Those are the possessions that flip a Game 4 on the road without blowing a fuse. And because you've been with me long enough to demand the other side, too, here it is. There's real risk in moving a known quantity who bleeds purple and gold. There's the chemistry tax and the night you miss his guts at the rim. But I'll be just as honest about the risk of doing nothing, capping yourself with mid-season extensions that read well on social but handcuff you when the summer storm hits. Or letting the bargain value expire into a negotiation that nudges you into overpay territory just to keep your own, and suddenly the flexibility that was supposed to define the next era shrinks to a couple of minimums and a prayer. Timeline-wise, this is the right moment because the East buyer is ready, the West landscape punishes narrow builds, and the cap math tilts toward wings and picks over one more pretty dribble move. And if you believe, like I do, that the Lakers must look great without needing to look loud, then you understand why the phone keeps lighting up. Quick breather to bring you in, not as passengers but as co-pilots. Drop your read below right now. Should LA cash in Reaves at peak value for 2 playoff-ready wings and future control, or ride the bargain, try to win the margins with continuity, and risk a summer staring at a number you don't love? I'm going to pull your smartest frameworks into the next video because this community thinks the game. And before I answer the core question with a straight spine, let me widen the lens and make the stakes crystal. Does a Lakers-Knicks trade with Reaves outbound actually make us harder to beat tonight while making us harder to corner tomorrow if LeBron's path leads away after the season? My verdict is yes, and not in a cute way. Yes, if the package is real rotation, help that can be trusted when the lights get vindictive, plus draft leverage that restores optionality, plus clean contract shapes that don't choke the cap the second we need to pivot. Yes, if the on-court fit lets Anthony Davis stop playing firefighter at 3 levels and start playing destroyer again, living at the nail, erasing middle pick and roll without emergency help, cleaning the glass with a body next to him, and finishing possessions instead of bailing them out. Yes, if the identity flips to defense first, with enough shot creation to win normal Tuesday nights without summoning superhero shot-making, because that's the version of the Lakers that doesn't ask for permission in April. That's the version that imposes its will from the tip and turns fourth quarters into math problems for the other bench. And when the reveal finally lands, whether it's tomorrow or at the deadline, don't get lost in the sentiment of losing a fan favorite. Stay locked on the shape. Bigger wings that can switch without panic, second side offense that doesn't stall into dribble prey, fewer late clock grenades that torch the legs, more easy points born from cuts and hit-aheads, bench minutes that hold serve instead of leaking 5 points in 3 trips, and a front office holding draft and deal flexibility that becomes gold the day after a legend waves goodbye. That's the difference between surviving a series and owning it. More lineups that guard their yard, more possessions that start with an advantage created by bodies, not just names, more ways to win the ugly stretches where champions usually separate. So here's the Pro Bowl, short but with weight. The principal news is this. The Lakers are prepared to center real talks with the Knicks around Austin Reaves if New York pays the full freight with depth and picks. Not because the team misreads his value, but because the roster needs a reset that honors the chase now and respects a summer that could change everything. The exact blueprint contenders follow when they stop clinging to what was and start investing in what wins next. And I want you inside this with me, not watching from the sidewalk. Would you pull the trigger if the Knicks put 2 playoff-grade wings and real draft control on the table? Think playable size? Clean money, immediate utility. Or would you keep Reaves through the season? Ride the bargain and bet you can thread the needle in July without overpaying to keep your own. Tell me which version of this team you believe in and why. With the exact kind of deal you'd accept or reject, roles, minutes, how it alters late-game offense, how it shifts Davis's workload, how it positions the cap for a post-LeBron build, because that's the conversation that matters when banners stop doing the talking and roster decisions start. If your answer is trade, spell out the 2 wings and the pick tiers that make it a yes and why those bodies change our playoff math. If your answer is hold, tell me how you protect bird rights, avoid a bidding war, and still fix the size defense problem that beat us in the middle minutes last year. Either way, drop it below and make it sharp. And if you're riding with this kind of clear-eyed, no-nonsense breakdown, basketball first, cap smart, no fluff, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because here at Lakers News Fan Report, you get the whispers, the context and the truth before the ink dries, and you'll hear your best frameworks echoed back the next time we go live.